The ratings for the primary debate were cut in half from the previous year. Come on, Fox News, that's embarrassing. But not only that, the mugshot came out shortly after, so that's really front of mind for everyone right now, and that's dominating the cranial airspace. Comment on the live stream this morning, The Morning Buzz, Kat Peterson, live in studio again. I did take a lovely vacation, rested, very well rested, and I'm excited to get into today's topics, and a lot has happened in the last week, and I'm going to catch you all up, and I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about Fauci stammering on CNN. Yes. So he's a fumbling, bumbling idiot. Even on so CNN is presenting him with all kinds of evidence that the mask mandates didn't do anything. I've got receipts. The mask mandates did not do anything at all. So we're going to get to that. But I really want to ask you, comment. Text in 309-451-9299. I'm live in studio as always, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. You can see me there. I want to know, can you remember what you liked from the primary debates? Now, there's only one scene that I can remember very, very vividly. And of course, that's irrelevant Ron DeSantis. He looks around the debate stage and they asked him the question, hey, are you going to support the nominee, Donald Trump, if he's convicted? And Ron DeSantis does this cowardice thing where he looks around and he's looking at other people's hands and then he kind of like limp wrists his hand up. You know, they said, raise your hand if you would support him. That sticks out to me. I really liked Ron DeSantis prior to that. I don't even think he's really, I mean, Trump got him there. Trump got him there to that governorship. And that's how he repays him, by limp wristing it up there. I mean, even if he's so, in other words, Ron DeSantis would rather support Joe Biden. If he's not going to support the nominee, Donald Trump, if he's convicted, then who are you going to support? Because at that point, you've only got two options, Joe and Donald Trump, if he's convicted. So I mean, you should see me pulling up to the ballot box. I vote over by Journey Church. That's where my polling place is. I'll pull up and I will have my windows down, blaring some sort of Richmond, north of Richmond song. I'll be blaring that and I'll be voting for Donald Trump, even if he's behind bars. And I'm not alone in that. I think it's near 70% of Republicans say that they would vote for Donald Trump if he was behind bars. So not even just convicted, but if he's serving his sentence in a prison cell, I'll be voting for him. 70% of Republicans are also with me on that. So people are seeing this mugshot. That's dominating the cranial airspace. The primary debate was nothing. I mean, like I said, the ratings were cut in half from the previous year. People who live on islands, tribal islands, are starting to see this mugshot. People are getting this mugshot in these glass bottles. I've heard of this actually happening. So I think there's some truth to this, where people are putting the mugshot in these glass bottles and they are throwing them out into the ocean, and these people on these tribal islands are looking at the mugshot. There's nearly 300 million. Think about that for a second. 300 million views. Now, part of that is because Donald Trump came back to Twitter and people were excited about Donald coming back. But 300 million views on the mugshot that Donald Trump tweeted out. And then that's about 20 times more the views than of the primary debate. So come on. Yeah, I'm sorry, but Vivek, I really like Vivek. There's some things about Vivek that worry me. Ron DeSantis, I thought I liked him. There might be some good candidates, but I'm sorry, you're irrelevant. And then as soon as Donald Trump gets out there, and as soon as the primaries are over, Vivek is going to vanish. So I call him Vanishing Vivek and Irrelevant Ronnie. I'm sorry. So first, let's get into it this morning. Fauci stammering on CNN. I don't know. The mask mandates don't work. What? This? You're telling me this now for the first time. That's what Tony Fauci says on CNN. So we're going to get to that. Next, burn in hell, says a Gold Star mom. And she's blasting Joe Biden and his heartless fake empathy, calling one mother by the wrong name. So Joe Biden went as far as when he addressed the Gold Star family. And she points this out in this interview. It's a sit down interview. I think ABC did it with a few Gold Star moms, these Gold Star moms losing their children in some cases. A son-in-law, they sit down and they talk about Joe Biden's abysmal withdrawal from Afghanistan. So we're going to talk about that. And Bill Maher, Bill Maher, I always say that wrong. Bill Maher unloads on these progressives and goes there. And he says this, quote, "Black lives don't seem to matter when they're taken by other Black lives." So he was on with Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan podcast, and Bill Maher, he just completely unloads on these progressives. And at the end of the day, come on, I know Bill Maher, he's going to vote Democrat and likely he would vote for Joe Biden. However, I still think that this makes for good content because it's always nice to hear a leftist unloading on these progressives. And I mean, they're starting to wake up and realize, whoa, these guys are absolutely insane. So CNN blindsiding Fauci on air live with a study saying that masks don't work. They don't. And progressives, they're going to point to these studies that are bunk and they are totally garbage. I forget the one that they always point to, but it's in some other country and it's a population study. And what they try to say is that this is truth. The these mask mandates worked because it's all self-reported. So they took a population, but it's a bunk study because they self-reported. So instead of actually testing them for COVID-19 and proving if they had COVID-19 or contracted COVID-19 in this study, they went off self-reporting. So if you got the sniffles or something and you didn't have COVID, then you reported yourself as having COVID because you didn't know if you had COVID or not. So it's a really bunk study. And that's the only study that they cite. I forget what country that's out of, but it's in some other country. And I'll look that up for you. But that's what the leftists always point to. Every other study on planet Earth says that mask mandates don't work. And CNN is even it's getting bad when CNN is even calling Fauci out on the mask mandates. So after getting called out, Fauci, he had to give this long-winded answer by saying that there were other studies. And those other studies, I just told you, I'll have to look that up. It's a study where they had this population size. He talks about it in this clip that I'm going to share with you. And as always, folks, I'm live in studio. I'm back. I was on vacation for about a week, long week, but I'm very well rested now. And I'm excited to bring you Tony Fauci stammering on CNN. I never thought I'd hear the day that CNN actually pulled a random act of journalism. Here we go.
Totally understood. There is a perception out there by many, how many I don't know, that they don't work and that the data concludes that they didn't work in the first go round. Respond to that on masks.
Yeah, well, that's not so. I mean, when you're talking about at the population level, that the data are less strong than knowing that if you look on a situation as an individual protecting themselves or protecting them from spreading it, there's no doubt that masks work. Different studies give different percentages of advantage of wearing it, but there's no doubt that the weight of the studies, and there have been many studies, indicate the benefit of wearing masks.
I'm going to refer to one of them. You've heard about it before. I heard about it from a number of radio callers. Brett Stevens in the Times talked about Cochrane. Put that on the screen. The most rigorous and comprehensive analysis of scientific studies conducted on the efficacy of masks for reducing the spread of respiratory illness, including COVID-19, was published last month. Its conclusions, said Tom Jefferson, the Oxford epidemiologist who is the lead author, were unambiguous. There is just no evidence that masks, make any difference. He told the journalist Mayan Damasi, full stop. But wait, hold on. What about the N95 masks as opposed to the lower quality surgical or cloth masks? Makes no difference. None of it, he said, Well, what about the studies that initially persuaded policymakers to impose mask mandates? They were convinced by non-randomized studies, flawed observational studies. How do we get beyond that finding of that particular review?
Yeah, but there are other studies, Michael, that show at an individual level for individual. When you're talking about the effect on the epidemic or the pandemic as a whole, the data are less strong. But when you talk about as an individual basis of someone protecting themselves or protecting themselves from spreading it to others, there's no doubt that there are many studies that show that there is an advantage. When you took at the broad population level, like the Cochrane study, the data are less firm with regard to the effect on the overall pandemic. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about an individual's effect on their own safety. That's a bit different than the broad population level, right?
But I was told to wear a mask. Hold on. I was told to wear a mask because I was going to kill grandma if I didn't wear a mask. And he's totally wrong here because it just kind of stops you from sneezing. I mean, there's like snot that comes out of your nose, and it kind of prohibits the snot from coming out of your nose. And I mean, he's totally wrong here. And, you know, I know that we weren't doing proper mask wearing. I know I didn't do proper mask wearing when I wore the mask a couple of times. You take it off. The moment you take that off, say you're in a room with a bunch of people who are infected with COVID-19, okay? The moment you take your mask off in that room, even if that person is, those infected people are 6 feet apart, and if they're far away, they've already sneezed up in the air. You take that mask off, all of the particles of the COVID air get into that mask, then you put the mask back on. It's more damaging than good. Like it's more damaging at that point. Let's continue. This is what Fauci said on 60-minute interview some time ago.
Now people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course.
So that's what Fauci said way back when on the 60 Minutes interview. So all of a sudden, Fauci's out here trying to say that the mask mandates are worked and that it stopped the spread of infection. And that's just not true. He claimed other studies at an individual level for individuals, masks might have been protective, which logically speaking would mean individuals can choose to wear a mask and not have the government, whether national or state level. We dealt with it here in the state of Illinois. I was kicked out of several businesses because I refused to wear a mask, mandated on everyone. Look, logically speaking, what Tony Fauci just said there, that would mean individuals can choose to wear a mask or not, because it's really, he says that it provides them protection at an individual level, not at a population in the grand scheme of things. But rest assured, claims Tony, that no one is discussing mandates. Sorry, Tony, I don't believe you. He says that they're not discussing mandates, and we're starting to see this play of schools, colleges, you know, and I have a hard time believing that the mask mandates aren't coming back, or that at least they're not going to try to bring them back, because I remember back in 2020, I think it was 2021, when those kindergartners were forced to eat lunch outside in this school, at the school in Portland, Oregon. It was 40-degree weather at this little elementary school in Portland, Oregon. And then they took the kids out, they sat them down on buckets and social distanced them from their friends. And they forced them to eat lunch outside in 40-degree weather to stop the spread of COVID-19. And I'm sorry, I saw that. I witnessed it. I saw that the government did that. The teachers' unions, the teachers, that school system, they did that to kids. And I'm sorry, I don't believe people when they say that they're not discussing mask mandates or bringing them back. We've already told you that Google has started to express their opinions on mandates and lockdowns, and they say that talking about the mask mandates is dangerous. That's what Google is starting to say. I think that they're already trying to censor this idea that mask mandates are coming back because they don't want to start a panic. But I'm telling you right now, I think they're coming back. All right, I got to take a break. I got to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Joe Biden. ABC News, they let 3 Gold Star mothers share their stories about their losses of their loved ones in the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. So we're going to talk about that because one Gold Star mother, I mean, puts him on blast and says, quote, burn in hell. Uh, so she's not very happy with Joe Biden at all. We're going to be back on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz. Good morning. Hey, will you comply? I'm curious if you will comply. I've got a very busy phone line. The mask does nothing at all unless you cover your eyes too. Yes. Okay, I'm absolutely loving this diagram somebody shared with me on our text line, our very busy phone lines, 309-451-9299. Go ahead and text in your thoughts about the mask mandates. Are you going to comply? The cloth masks, this is from the CDC. They said that they're used to slow the spread of COVID-19, but they offer very little protection against wildfire smoke. So you and I, we dealt with that a couple of months ago, the Canadian wildfires coming down into the state of Illinois, and we smelled the sulfur in the air, we smelled the smoke in the air, and some people were wearing masks because they thought it helped. The CDC, they said, quote, they do not catch small particles found in wildfire smoke that can harm your health. Limit your time outside when it's smoky. Learn how you can protect yourself from the wildfire smoke with the CDC, blah, blah, blah. And then there's this diagram. So the smoke particle, I would say, well, we've got it here. It's like 10 milliliters or something. It's pretty small, but it's a small particle, but it's much bigger than a COVID-19 particle. These masks do absolutely nothing. They harm children. And not to mention, I mean, leftists listening, I know you might want to know this. If nothing else, this should be the reason why you don't wear a mask, leftists, okay? They are a major pollutant. I don't care so much about it, but maybe this leftist climate change weenie, they're all hypocrites, and we're all hypocrites. I get that. But the masks, they don't decompose. They are way more harmful for to the environment than that of a plastic straw. So plastic straws, they don't decompose until about 200 years. Masks, it's about 400 years that it takes for it to decompose. Not to mention, I mean, millions of people throw these things away and they get into the landfills, right? This should be the reason why you don't wear a mask, because they're extremely harmful for the environment. I think it was like near 300 million or something like that. It was in the millions, over a million masks made it into the ocean within the years of 2020 to 2023, something like that. Millions of masks have made it into the ocean and they're suffocating the turtles. So, leftists, if you're listening right now, if nothing else, I've told you that they don't work. Uh, and now I've told you that they're terrible for the environment. I mean, the yee guy with his lifted F-150 out there spraying a can of aerosol out his window as diesel truck is probably better for the environment than these masks are. So if nothing else, this should be the reason why you don't wear a mask. They're terrible for the environment. I do want to move on. We have this audio obtained by James O'Keefe. He talks about this whistleblower who has come forward exclusively to OMG, which is the O'Keefe Media Group. And they've exclusively given this audio recording to James O'Keefe. And this is incredible because this Best Buy, it's all about Best Buy employee, was fired after he exposed this alleged anti-Christian discrimination. So Best Buy fired this whistleblower who went public after this audio recorded conversation between the worker and the manager was revealed. And the audio reveals that Christian symbols were banned. And, contrary to the Christian symbols being banned, there was a promotion or even a preference for LGBTQ symbols. So he says this, the Best Buy worker, his name is Anis Sujak, and he says, quote, my family fled religious persecution in Serbia so I could live my life as a Christian without being persecuted for my beliefs. Yet that is exactly what's happening. He's being persecuted for his beliefs. He wrote this on a Give, Send, Go page. And he says, on September 1st, 2023, Best Buy terminated my employment because I stood firm against workplace discrimination based on my religion, and I exercised my right to be a Christian. Look, religious freedom, it's the oldest constitutional right, and it should not have to be maintained through legal battles. And I'm sure this guy's going to go through some sort of legal battle. This is why he's got the Give, Send, Go up for his legal fees. But here we are in 2023 fighting woke companies to protect our most basic foundational principles. This is the oldest constitutional right, freedom of religion. So Sujak, he recently exposed this recorded conversation he had with his manager, the manager's name, Michael Hirsch. And he gave this recording exclusively to James O'Keefe, arguing that employees promoted LGBTQ culture, and that was fine, but promoting Christianity was not. So let's take a listen here. And as always, I'm live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Be sure to go ahead, smash that like button, share this video out with your normie friends. We are not an approved media source. So I'm sorry, we're not approved. We're not regime approved. But we still have really crucial information that you need to share out with your normie friends. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
Second whistleblower has come forward exclusively to OMG with audio recordings of his manager, Mike Hirsch, at a Best Buy in Jacksonville, Florida, stating that LGBTQ flags were appropriate in the Geek Squad office, but Christian crosses were not. This has led to further allegations of religious discrimination.
If we're doing all that gay pride flags and all that transgender stuff, like, why don't we have Christian stuff all over?
They're not the same.
How is that not the same?
You can 1000% choose religion.
So,
it's not a belief.
listen,
though. That's a cultural.
Yeah, but me as a cultural entity having beliefs that I have, so why can't I put my stuff all over the wall?
You are choosing to believe in Christianity or Muslim or whatever. You choose that.
Someone is choosing to be gay or lesbian. Hey, they're choosing that.
Enis Sujak, a Serbian immigrant and Best Buy employee in Jacksonville, Florida, recorded the conversation with his manager, Mike Hirsch. I spoke with Enis about his situation. He's decided to go public. Very brave, very courageous individual. Here's some of that interaction.
That is our manager. His name is Mike Hirsch. He and I had a very long conversation. It was like an hour and 30 minutes of he and I just going back and forth with him, telling me that it was work appropriate to have all this LGBTQ stuff that's going on in the office and everywhere else, but it's not okay for me to, be a Christian myself and have a Bible right over there that's right there at the office, or have a cross or a Quran or anything like that. That's not work appropriate, but, having that LGBTQ pride flag everywhere else, that is.
So there you have it. That's what's going on with Best Buy. And I have a feeling, and I don't know, folks, maybe you can comment, text in. Do you think that Best Buy is going to wind up getting the Target treatment or the Bud Light treatment? I think so. So he's going on the offense. Sujak, he's going to be bringing forward some civil rights lawsuits against Best Buy for violating the law. The discussion revolved around an incident involving another employee. Her name is Athena Cruz, who was delivering a presentation about the history of the LGBTQ community in the workplace. I don't understand. Don't they repair laptops? Why are we having presentations about the history of the LGBTQ community in the workplace when what we do is not even remotely connected to sexual orientation? We fix laptops. Why is Athena, this other employee, able to give this presentation about the history of the sexual orientation about the LGBTQ community? So Sujak expressed that he was not interested in who you sleep with, and he believes sexuality has no place in the workplace. Yeah, it's almost like a form of sexual harassment, forcing this on people. Sujak recorded his conversation with that manager. You heard a little bit of it. And basically, Hirsch believes that religion is a choice, but members of the LGBT community are born that way. In other words, a 2-year-old does not choose to be born as the wrong sex, but because you choose to be religious, it's permissible to infringe upon your rights. Because you choose to be religious, it's permissible to infringe upon your rights. Okay. So Sujak, he's fighting this. Godspeed. I hope that he It just gives them hell. The news comes less than a month after the O'Keefe Media Group revealed that Best Buy was partnering with this training program company. It's called McKinsey and Company on management program, and this program wasn't open to white applicants, so white people couldn't train in this program. It was a management training program, and white people weren't allowed to participate. So they exposed that, O'Keefe Media, from Best Buy, and then now this, where they discriminate on the basis of religion, really. So Best Buy, they claim that they are an equal opportunity employer, and they claim that they don't discriminate on the basis of age, sex, race, color, creed, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, blah, 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 blah. We know that's not true. And look, if progressives didn't have double standards, they would have no standards at all. They just would. All they've got is double standards. All right. I've got to take a quick break, but we're going to be back. Sujay is doing the right thing here, or Sujak is doing the right thing. This guy. We all need to defend our religious freedom and not cave to the woke companies seeking to infringe on our most basic rights. We're going to be back. This is the Morning Buzz. Hey, good morning. If you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. Yes, I am back in studio. Thanks so much for tuning in. Nope, I'm not going to comply, and I have a feeling more of us won't this time around either. I know, this time around. I hope not. I always have a feeling, though, like in the back of my head, that these people are going to cave when it comes, like, so to your job, right? When it comes to your job, State Farm, if they start mandating it, will you bend the knee? Now, if we all band together and we say no, then that's going to have more teeth, more girth. That's going to be better for us, and we won't have to comply. So we'll have to see. I don't think it's going to be as strong this go around. The the sheep aren't going to be sheeply, I guess, anymore, but we'll have to see. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. Be sure to smash that like button. Okay, yes, if he were to vote in 2024, Bill Maher, he is definitely going to vote for Joe Biden because he's a leftist. It's important to keep that in mind anytime he goes off about how crazy progressives have gotten. But it's still left on left content, which you know that you enjoy as much as I do. So I really like Joe Rogan when he has like other leftists on because I don't know, it's like it's interesting to see how these people think and kind of get an inside look at how these people think. Bill Maher, he says, "Look, murders have been happening in Chicago among the African American community for far too long." This is what Bill Maher is saying on the show. They were talking about this popular topic. We've talked about it a lot here on the Morning Buzz. I'm Kat Peterson. Good morning. I'm back in studio live. I was on vacation for about a week, went into the mountains. It was great. Definitely feeling more refreshed. You can text in at 309-451-9299, and you can see me live in studio on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and don't forget to get your Rooted apparel. Yes, Rooted apparel. They are a Christian apparel. I just told you about the poor Best Buy employee who was fired for trying to display things like Christian symbols, the cross, talk about his Christian faith in the workplace. He was discriminated against, and he was recording a conversation that he was having with his manager. And I highly suggest that, maybe talk to your boss. Have a recording going. Send the recording here to Cities 92.9. Ask them why you can't display the cross, why you can't have the Bible on your desk. But it's okay for the LGBTQ flags to be flying and in every corner of your office. Okay, so be bold. Ask the question, why not? And ask, hey, is it okay if I put up a big old cross right here on my desk? Is it okay if I wear a Christian T-shirt? And you can wear your Christian T-shirt by going to Rooted Apparel. Use the promo code CAT at checkout. You get 20% off. It's rootedapparelco.com. They're good folk over there. And I've got a shirt. It says Jesus is King. I wore it actually. It was incredible. So I went down south and I wore it in this Walmart. And I got to tell you about this. And I promise we're going to get to uh, Bill Maher on the Joe Rogan podcast in just a second. But Walmart, I was in Walmart. I had my Jesus is King shirt on. And this guy approaches me down south. And I was like, whoa. I mean, like, you're getting pretty close. And I was like, because that just doesn't happen up here in Illinois. It just doesn't. People aren't friendly. This guy comes up to me and he goes, yes, Jesus is king. And he goes, and he's coming back. And like, I just wanted to reach out and give this guy a hug. Every street corner that we were on, there were people passing out Bibles, scriptures. It was incredible. And if you're ever feeling down, if you feel like it's just impossible and you're the only one, you're not. You go down south and there's a Trump store on every street corner. I think we visited two Trump stores that just sold Trump stuff. Like that's all that they sold. And they were storefronts, and they were huge storefronts on like the busiest. I mean, we were like by Pigeon Forge there, and they were on the busiest roads. And like that can't be cheap to buy out one of those storefronts or to rent one of those storefronts every month. Because there's a lot of traffic that comes through Pigeon Forge, right? And you're like right there on the corner of like these two busy roads. It can't be cheap. So like these guys are sustaining themselves enough to rent out that storefront or buy it. I didn't get into it with the guy. And then to also contribute to the Trump campaign. So a lot of those Trump stores down south will contribute to the campaign as well. So it's quite incredible. And there were so many like Christian stores. You walked in and there's just like Bibles everywhere. It was incredible. And I was like, is this like just kind of like a thing down south? It is. Talking about Trump and Jesus is like a big thing. And it wasn't just the touristy areas. It was just everywhere. You can't like throw a baseball and not hit a church because there's a church literally everywhere. Down south, and it was just incredible and kind of a culture shock for me. So it was a great time. I do want to get to this. I'm gonna have to take a break. That's all right. We're it's a relaxed day here. I'm getting my feet back I'm getting my feet wet here, being back from vacation. We are going to talk about how Bill Maher is upset about these crime. I mean, this is a crime-ridden progressive city, Chicago, how progressive policies have led to the crime in already crime-ridden progressive cities. So it's just increasing crime, each progressive policy. You know that, I know that, because we live in the state of Illinois. I've gone through some of these crime policies passed at the state level, non-citizens becoming police officers, peacekeepers being handed these these vests and $200 a day to go out there and play cutesy time social worker with hardened gangster criminals. We're going to be back talking about Bill Maher on the Joe Rogan podcast. That's next. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. Smash that like button. And we are going to be back talking about the Joe Rogan podcast. Bill Maher taking a stab at these progressives. Now, I did go down south. Have you gone down south? And is your experience similar in that of, you're constantly met with either Jesus or Trump? Because I was down there and just people talking about Trump, people talking about Jesus. Everybody had a Jesus t-shirt on. Everybody was wearing a cross. Everybody was either wearing it. If you weren't in a Jesus t-shirt, you were in a Trump t-shirt. Like that's just the way it was. And I was shocked by that because we were in a very touristy area. So you would think that it would be more like neutral or, to try to get as many tourists as possible to that area. But no, they were not, they weren't quiet about their faith. And, have you ever, I know it's a personal thing, have you ever been discriminated against in the workplace because of your religion? Because you are a Christian, because you're Jewish, Muslim, whatever the case may be. Curious if that's ever happened to you and what would happen if you went into work the next day and put up a big old cross on your desk in your cubicle, or if you had the Bible sitting next to your desk, what would happen? Me and my workplace just here at Cities 92.9, it's awesome. Uh, and I've got my Bible sitting right over there on my desk. And I read it right before I get on air. Start the day with God, and that's just the way it goes. That's my religion, and I couldn't imagine this place ever discriminating against me because of my religion. But Best Buy sure as hell did against this fellow. His name is Anish Sujak, and he fled religious persecution in Serbia. And he says that he fled Serbia to become a Christian and to not be persecuted for his beliefs. But that is exactly what's happening now that he is working for Best Buy. So I gave you that story. We are going to talk about Bill Maher. Also, you guys, I know you have to remember this infamous Canadian trans shop teacher. I've got to show you a picture of this guy. He's a wood shop teacher and he was transgender, and he is kind of infamous in that he has these huge breasts. So yes, you're hearing me correctly. This is a man who has prosthetic breasts that are probably, I don't know what to, like, it's bigger than a basketball. Okay, the breasts are bigger than basketballs. Um Now I don't know what is going on because he's not wearing the breasts anymore. He is a man all of a sudden. So he's brand new, a man. He's back at it. Um so quite incredible. Here we go. Let me share this. I'm going to share that my screen with you here in the 7 o'clock hour. Woo! Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Exactly right on the masks. They will be making a return for the election flu. Yeah, election season. And I've told you before, the Atlantic, New York Times, they've talked about democracy and how it's bad, how elections are bad for democracy. That's the headlines they're running with. They're looking to cancel the election. They're looking to throw Trump off of the ballot. Make no mistake, they do not want you going out on election day and voting for Donald Trump. That is something that they do not want. What leftists truly want is for you to vote via text message. Like at the end of the day, I'm telling you right now, that's the Democrats' dream. If you were at home, you don't leave your house, you'll be happy, you'll own nothing, you'll be happy, and you just vote from the touch of a button from your screen on your phone. That is what leftist Democrats are all about. They don't care about voter integrity. They definitely don't care about double signature verification. They don't care about people like this woman. Gosh, what's her name? Oh, I'll look it up. But she's feeding the ballots, and we've got an Illinois pastor who's been indicted alongside Donald Trump for the RICO Act, so-called violating the RICO Act. And Ruby Freeman, he went to her house. That's her name. And he just wanted to ask her if she was okay because she went viral. I mean, this video exploded everywhere because she was feeding the ballots through the tabulator. They were the same ballots. So you can see very, very clearly in the video that she puts this ballot through the tabulator. She pulls the ballot out, and then she puts the same ballot back into the tabulator like multiple times. And here we have somebody just a pastor, somebody who was a cop, like a police chaplain. He was an NCIS agent, and he just comes to her door or knocks on the door, gives her a phone call. And then because he did that, they're trying to persecute him because he was trying to act as a pastor and as a faith leader and ask her, hey, what's going on? Who did this? Who asked you to do this? You know, maybe asking some questions. I don't know. That's what I imagine. Hey, are you okay? This video's really blown up. Are you all right? For that, he's being politically prosecuted, persecuted, religious. I mean, being persecuted as a faith leader, really. So, yes, the thing that they do not want is this election to carry on as normal. They want mask mandates. They want mail-in ballots. They want Trump thrown off the ballot. You name it. They do not want this 2024 election to carry on as planned. Now, we are going to have to talk about this Oregon store selling genital-shaped plushies for kids. Yes. The store owner, she's like some sort of OnlyFans star. She's disgusting, and she's got this store, and she is all about selling baby clothes, baby items, but she also is selling genital shaped plushies for kids, and she hopes that kids get a stuffed animal in the shape of a testicle, and she wants them to read the information card attached to the plushie. So I've got that story for you. And plus, we're going to talk about Bill Maher and visit with our Patriot of the Week for Patriot Power Plug next. Yes, we are going to be talking about the plushie, genital-shaped plushies. Yes, I hate to bring this to your attention, but I've got to because it's important. There was this Oregon's children's store. It's a clothing store, and they are now selling genital-shaped plushies for kids. And this, of course, sparking very heavy criticism from parents, teachers, customers. I mean, people are not happy about this. Despite the negative attention, the Freckled Bee is what this store is called. It's in Salem, Oregon, and they are selling kids and babies' clothes. And they're refusing to acknowledge that there is some criticism coming from parents who aren't happy about the genital-shaped plush toys. So the store owner, who is an OnlyFans guru, I guess, or starlet, says that the outrage over its penis, breasts, clitoris-shaped plushies for kids is comical. So she thinks it's funny that there's outrage from parents that, they're not happy about this, the genital-shaped plushes. She thinks it's funny and she's laughing about it. Um, the freckled bee shared a photograph of its pink, purple, orange clitoris-shaped plushie along with the caption, "The funniest thing about this place is people find the fact that I sell stuffies that are human anatomy as negative." So this is, of course, how she's spinning it. The store owner, she says, "So what if a kid grabs a testicle and reads the information card about what the testicle does? The horror!" Right? She's being sarcastic here. She goes, "How dare we want our kids to be educated on the human body? Be rest assured they've never had a problem with me in my shop. Heck, even they've referred customers here, stuffed penises and all. But now it's a problem." So she's all upset that these people are giving her criticisms for selling these stuffed penises in this store that is designed for children. I mean, that is designed for parents to buy things for kids. This is a baby clothing store. Um, Now, the concerned customer sounded off the alarm about the plushies on a Facebook post, and she said that she couldn't believe what she had seen in the store. She goes, "So I popped in the store today while waiting for another to open. Couldn't believe I was actually seeing this in there. And I was going to make a purchase until I saw these plushies, and I went over to the counter and told her, nope, I changed my mind. I'm not going to be purchasing anything here." So she changed her mind. She was going to make some purchases, but she changed her mind after she saw the plushies. And she goes on to say, this concerned customer, "Please tell me who is going to buy their child a stuffed penis, let alone all the other organisms, but a penis? You're gonna buy a stuffed penis for a kid?" So the freckled bee also sells very far left merchandise, things that are anti-American, anti-Christian, pro-communism, pro-abortion, pro-transgender slogans, blah 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 blah. So this is a left store, left-leaning store owner. The store owner has a distaste for America. She shared a photograph of herself wearing a red and white shirt with the phrase "America was never great, so she hates America." She shared that onto her Instagram account just to give you some insight into what this woman is like. Then next, to top it all off, she shares erotic videos of herself eating food. So on OnlyFans. So a great woman, right? Great store owner, wonderful business owner. Not so yeah, that happened in Oregon. They're selling stuffed genital plushies to children. They want kids to read the information card about what a testicle does. This is a baby clothing item, kids clothing item store. Like, she's promoting parents and buying or trying to get parents to buy these plushes. We are going to be back talking a bit about this Canadian woodshop teacher, massive prosthetic breasts, probably about the size of basketballs, bigger than a basketball. I don't know what ball is bigger than a basketball, so I'm just going to call them basketballs. But that's about it was almost comical. And this guy, if you saw a picture of him, he was like going viral. He's a woodshop teacher with these massive prosthetic breasts. I don't know how that's like not against the dress code, but the school let him have these massive prosthetic breasts. But this year he shows up to school for the new school year, and he is presenting himself as a male. So there you have it. You walk into this store, you want to buy some baby clothes, you want to buy some kids' clothes, and then all of a sudden you start to see this genital-shaped plush toy. Yes, a penis-shaped plush toy. They are promoting this to children. They want parents to buy this for their kids. It's this organ store. And you won't believe this story. You got to stick around for it. Plus, there's some controversy about this Canadian woodshop teacher who wore these giant prosthetic breasts, like the size of bigger than basketballs. That's what he was wearing last school year. Now, this school year, he goes by the name Kayla. He arrives for the new school year at this new school without the breasts, without the blonde wig, which caused such a stir last year because I'm like, people are saying this is against the dress code. You can't wear prosthetic breasts that are bigger than basketballs. That won't work. There's got to be a dress code. But we're going to talk about it because now apparently he's presenting himself as male. So all of that and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. And I've got to bring this up. The ratings for the primary debate were cut in half from the previous year. Okay, so Fox News, I'm sorry, you're irrelevant. Not only that, the mugshot came out shortly after. And that is just at the front of mind for everyone. That's dominating everybody's cranial space, cranial airspace at this time. People are thinking about the mugshot. People are thinking about Donald Trump. They care about Donald Trump. And I'm sorry, I can't even really remember what I liked about the primary debates. They were so irrelevant. And, you know, I have to really sit and think about things that happen in the primary debate because we're also focused on the mugshot. We're focused on Trump. People who live on an island with no connection to any kind of human life out there in the outside world, they are starting to see the mugshot. I've actually seen this, and I think that there's some truth to this. People are putting the mugshot in these glass bottles, and they're throwing it out into the ocean, and it's getting to these tribal islands, and people are taking out the mugshot in these glass bottles, and they're looking at it. Right now on Twitter, Donald Trump, he tweeted out the mugshot. It's iconic. 300 million views nearly. That's 20 times more views than what the primary debate got. And that's what I want to talk about today with Mike Coolidge. He is a former congressional candidate, Army officer, PAC spokesman, and host of the syndicated radio show, Mike Coolidge Show. He's currently the chairman of the Ogle County Republicans, and he's the owner of TMKS LLC, which is a communications consulting firm. And folks, he's a lifelong conservative activist and a good friend of mine. Mike Coolidge, thanks so much for joining me here on the Patriot Power Plug this morning.
Good morning, Kat. So happy to be here. I'm using an actual real radio microphone this time. I hope I'm coming through okay.
Yeah, I had to turn you down a bit. I was like, whoa. I was like, that's a powerful mic. No, it's good. It sounded great.
All these other times have been coming through on the screen or the regular MacBook thing, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm a radio professional broadcaster. Why aren't I using a real microphone? Duh.
Yeah, it sounds good. And what doesn't sound good is this push to remove Trump from the ballot, which I've kind of been seeing some issues in New Hampshire, where there might have been a possible lawsuit. Have you heard about that, Mike?
Yes. So actually, the Wall Street Journal today, which isn't always the biggest fan of President Trump, they have a piece out there, the editorial writers for the Wall Street Journal, basically speaking on behalf of the paper, saying this is the dumbest, stupidest idea that Trump's critics are trying to do now. And here's what really happened. I mean, you have this effort, obviously, to stop Donald Trump from getting reelected, to just remove him from civilization, remove him from the country, remove him from the national discussion. And every time they attempt to do that, whether it's arrest him, whether it's indict him, whether it's impeach him twice, he just gets more attention and more power, really. And his voice never goes away, and his ratings go up, or his polling numbers go up. And so you have people panicking right now on the left, and probably a couple of never Trumpers as well, saying, oh, shoot, well, wait, if he actually is arrested and thrown in jail and even convicted in this kangaroo court of Georgia or these other ones, according to the Constitution and legal experts, he actually still could become president. He could be sworn in from jail and be president of the United States. There's nothing that prohibits that. So, wait, now we have an idea. Let's get him removed from the ballot. Yeah, that way no one can vote for him, so he can't become president. And the rationale they're trying to use is something in the 14th Amendment that says the president or someone cannot be elected president who has engaged in an insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Now, the case that Donald Trump is currently being was indicted for and arrested for, this Jack Smith ridiculous craziness, he's not even charged with an insurrection. Forget about the ridiculousness of that argument that he somehow engaged in the insurrection. Even the guy who's prosecuting him right now, that's not what he's being charged for. So there's no even charge against Donald Trump for insurrection, but the detractors of Trump are trying to say, well, it's just self-evident that he participated in an insurrection, you see. So that is enough removed from the ballot. It's hogwash. But the problem is, if you have enough people in one particular state who buy into that, they might remove him from one state ballot.
One state, yeah.
That you know, and that could throw the election. New Hampshire, 4 electoral votes, it's nothing. But you run that play, you run the 270 to win map on your computer there, and you take out New Hampshire or Nevada or something like that, which also is just 4 electoral votes. And yeah, it could be Biden 271, Trump 264 or whatever, and Biden gets reelected. So it is significant.
Here's where I'm at with it, Mike. And if they start to play this, and I don't think that it's going to go through here, because there were actually Trump supporters who, you know, out of what was it, Yahoo Today? I love the headline: Trump supporters ambush New Hampshire state office over false rumor he was going to be removed from the primary ballot. So they're trying to say that that wasn't true, that they weren't trying to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. We know that that was exactly what they were trying to do now. But they're saying that they didn't try to do that. And, you know, the Trump supporters, they ambushed the state office. What I'm hoping for, and hopefully you as our Republican county chair can, you know, shed some light here. I hope that these deep red counties, red states, I hope that they start to pull the same stuff with traitor Joe Biden and try to throw him off the ballot, because we're forgetting that Joe Biden, he's got crimes, right? What's the money laundering, the bribery. I mean, like, the list goes on about Joe Biden and his crimes. The classified documents, something that they've indicted Donald Trump for. He did the same exact thing. The documents in the Corvette, right? So I'm hoping that Republicans take this and play the same playbook, and that would be huge. I think that would be awesome if we could, you know, take this and maybe not so fight. So I'm just so sick of playing defense, because that sounds like we're playing defense, calling this state office. That's defense. We've got to start playing offense and get these red counties and states to play the same game.
Yeah. And that is going to happen. And again, not a legal expert, and I have not talked to my state's attorney yet in Ogle County. His name's Mike Rock. He's a guy, and there are tons of state's attorneys in Illinois that are Republican. In fact, the majority of state's attorneys in Illinois are Republican because of all, you know, the way that the map is set and how many counties we have. But, you know, and that's just one state. There very likely will be, when Joe Biden is no longer president, assuming he you know, the problem too with that is that the dude is 80 something years old. If God forbid he wins re-election, the odds are that just because he's so old, he might not survive a second term, and we might not get the opportunity to indict him. However, he has minions. He has people who've been, you know, tied to the Biden family. Isn't just Joe Biden. His brother is implicated in some of this stuff. Biden himself. So yeah, the way it would ideally work is that Trump or someone wins, a Republican wins the presidency. And yeah, right now, if the election were tomorrow, it would be Donald J. Trump would win the primary and hopefully regain the presidency. And Joe Biden would be former president, former 46. And yeah, some county district attorney, as they're called in other states, just like the Georgia district attorney, would say, yeah, we have some issues here with this bribery scheme that there's hard evidence for, and we're going to indict based on the evidence and, prosecute this man as he should be, as anyone should. No one's above the law, we keep hearing, right? He's certainly not above the law. So if Congress isn't going to do it, and the Senate's not going to, or the House isn't going to impeach, and the Senate's not going to do a trial, if that doesn't happen, which I still hope it can and should this year, this coming next 12 months for Joe Biden, he should be indicted. Absolutely. Just like Donald Trump is being right now. And you have to have this pressure, and you have to have this consequence for this absolute insane effort that the left is doing right now to Donald Trump, or they're just going to keep doing it. There's no, it's like anything in life. If there's no negative consequence to outrageous behavior, it's going to be perpetuated.
Yeah. Well, what's next? Are they going to indict Vivek for being vegan? I mean, or like vegetarian, right? Like, what's next?
Yeah.
There is all kinds of precedent that they've been setting, and it's concerning to me. And what you have to do is you just got to bully them right back. And I think that the only people who would be willing to do that is maybe some deep red counties, a red state, something like that. And if they're charging, they haven't charged, as you said, Donald Trump with insurrection. But New Hampshire is citing that as the reason why they want to invoke whatever is in the 14th Amendment and take them off of the ballot. So I think that
it's complete legal mumbo jumbo and hogwash, and similar to the prosecution of him in Georgia. Like they even said, if you read the indictment of him, that it's not one specific crime. It's this sort of he's put up on these ridiculous like mob RICO charges. It's this giant list of things that kind of show a pattern that he was clearly trying to break the law here. Something completely again pulled out of their whats to try to just get this going, and it's working. It's the old line: you can indict a ham sandwich, you can impeach a ham sandwich, you can indict or impeach, so long as the district attorney or the state's attorney says that it's a viable case. And so that's happening here with Trump. It's not obviously viable, and I'm sure that's going to be proven out in court. But I'm just telling you, Kat, we're in for a whirlwind like you've never seen. I know you're of the Gen Z generation. You don't have as many presidential elections in your lifetime that you've witnessed. The craziest one maybe in your lifetime, I don't even if you were in the 2000 election, Bush versus Gore, but you were probably a little toddler then, right? Were you even alive in 2000?
Yeah, I was a year old. I was born in 99.
Remember, I'm sure your parents can tell you were looking up at that screen as a 1-year-old saying, "What is all this crazy hanging chads?" That was the craziest election. And then, 2004, there were accusations of voter fraud and vote tampering and Diebold machine counting and all that sort of craziness from the left against the right, the Democrats accusing of Republicans of that. And then you got Obama elected twice, and then, of course, the 2016 election. But this one, because of the unprecedented nature of a former president being indicted, which has never happened in the history of our country, for good reason, because a president's the legal framework for a president being charged for something is impeachment. Even a former president, it is impeachment. Obama technically could still be impeached right now. That is how they should impeach Donald Trump, specifically to stop this thing. He's running for president. They're trying to stop this election. They're trying to take the vote away from the voters and the voice away from the American people, and that in itself is a crime. Maybe not a legal, literal one, but it's a crime against our constitutional Republican democracy.
Yeah. Well, if I say it all the time, if Democrats had it their way, they would have us vote from our phones and have no voter integrity at all. They don't want to see the election process. I mean, the Atlantic, New York Times, they've come out with headlines saying elections are bad for democracy. Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
All right, Mike. Well, we've got to take a break. Thanks so much for joining me here on Patriot Power Plug. Guys, go follow Mike Coolidge. It's Coolidge on Twitter, just KOOLIDGE. Go find him on Twitter.
Congrats
Thanks,
on the
Mike.
engagement too, Kat. Congrats on the engagement. Woohoo!
Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate it, Mike. Yep, a big life step for me. I'm excited. You have a great day. We'll be back on the other side talking about Bill Maher on the Joe Rogan podcast. He said he's going after progressives again. That's next. Okay, I know I gotta get to Bill Maher, but oh my gosh, this is insane. So this is a new podcast out there. It's called Strike Force 5, and they released a trailer. Um, Now this is a bunch of late night hosts. You've got Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, John Oliver. They have teamed up to do this uh, this podcast, and really what the podcast is about is the this is how we know they are so out of touch. They've teamed up to do a pod, and they're going to talk about the complexities of the ongoing Hollywood strikes. 5 of the biggest hosts are starting their own podcast. We've got Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers. This teaser, so they posted this. This was not like a joke. This was like an actual teaser. Nothing about this teaser is going to make you want to watch this podcast about. And this just shows how out of touch they are. Do you give a damn about the Hollywood strikes? Do you care? Is that something that is of importance to you? Of course not. I mean, nothing about this makes me. There are so many things I would rather do than watch this podcast. I just can't. All right, we are going to be back. I'm going to be talking a little bit about this Strike 5, I don't know, podcast, Strike Force 5 trailer. The late night hosts, they're all about it. I do want to also chat a bit about Bill Maher. We're going to get to that here coming up in just a little bit. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast. Then you won't believe it. There's this organ store. They are selling genital shaped plushies for kids. So let me explain what that means. So, I mean, I'm just going to read from the news article here. You've got clitoris shaped, breast shapes, penis shaped genital plushies that they are targeting kids with. It's called the Freckled Bee in Salem, Oregon, and they sell kids' clothes, baby clothes, all things kids, and parents go in and they buy this stuff. Now, the store owner, it shouldn't come as a shock to you. She is an OnlyFans star, and she was saying that the outrage coming from customers and coming from parents about these genital shaped plushies for kids was comical. So she's laughing at their outrage. So there was a pink, purple, and orange clitoris shaped plushie that the freckled bee in an Instagram post posted. They posted the actual picture of the plushie, and they said, "quote The funniest thing about this place is people find the fact that I sell stuffies that are human anatomy as negative." So that's what the store owner wrote. We're gonna get to that here coming up in just a bit. Okay, things I would rather do than watch the Strike Force 5 podcast. I would take a bath in jalapeno juice. 100%. I would also get a paper cut on my cornea. I'd walk barefoot in the snow uphill both ways. I would there are so many things that I would rather do than watch this podcast with Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, and John Oliver. I'm going to play the trailer here for you in just a second. This is so out of touch. I've got to bring this up because, my God, I mean, I'm sure if they combined all of their viewers, their listeners, if they combine all of their audiences together, they might get 15 people watching the Strike Force 5 podcast. Let's take a listen to the trailer. They actually put this out as a trailer to the podcast. You tell me if this makes you want to watch it. Here we go.
One more time, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Fallon.
I'm Stephen Colbert.
I'm Jimmy Kimmel. I thought when you said Jimmy, you meant me, Jimmy, but you meant Jimmy.
I always mean you.
But when you say Seth Meyers, who do you mean?
I mean John Oliver.
It's the five of us together for maybe an hour a day.
Strike Force 5 is the name of our podcast. Subscribe to it now.
Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts. But Spotify, you fucks.
Oh boy. So there you have it. They've got the trailer out there. And I just can't believe it, folks. I just cannot believe how out of touch they actually are, because this is what the podcast is all about. The podcast is about Hollywood. And here I have the article, and it says, late night comedy, 5 biggest hosts are starting a podcast. Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, John Oliver, and Jimmy Fallon. They're going to host this podcast, and they're going to talk about the complexities behind the ongoing Hollywood strikes. What? All proceeds will go to out of work staff from the hosts' 5 talk shows. So this is how out of touch they are. They actually think you want to hear about the Hollywood strikes. Do you give a darn about the Hollywood strikes? Is that what is at the center of your life right now? No. But they create a podcast about it, and somehow they're going to fill an hour, maybe an hour. They couldn't even commit to a whole hour because these people are so awful. There's so many things I would rather do. I would rather have somebody take I would rather a paper cut on my cornea than watch this podcast. Speaking about podcasts, I do want to talk about Bill Maher. Bill Maher was on the Joe Rogan podcast, a very popular podcast, one of the biggest platforms in the United States. And Bill Maher was talking about the murders that are happening in places like Chicago. And he was talking about how these progressive policies have made it to where these crime-ridden progressive cities are just getting worse and worse. The crime is just increasing and increasing. So here's Bill Maher, and he's talking about African Americans and the community there, and for how the murders have been happening in Chicago in the African American community for far too long. And really, it's amazing how Black lives don't seem to matter when they're taken by Black lives. So that's what he talks about on the Joe Rogan podcast. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Minneapolis after the George Floyd murder and the riots. I think there was a movement to disband a lot of the police, and they did. I think a lot of the police were let go, or somehow the police force was a lesser force than it was. And what happened was, of course, crime went up in certain areas, and a lot of the officers who had been fired or let go or quit or for whatever reason they weren't on the force anymore, they were hired as private security. By who? The rich people who could afford to do it. So their neighborhood stayed safe. So that wasn't exactly, I thought, a victory for liberalism.
No, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Austin defunded the police and then refunded it, and refunded it by far more than they defunded it, because they just course corrected. They went, okay, this is not working. We have to do something to fix it, which makes me very happy, because I was really shocked that they wanted to do that, because there's a lot of crime. And where my club is on 6th Street, that's a wild place. 6th Street gets wild, and there's a lot of crime there. And there's a good police presence there. And we have a lot of police at the club. We hire off-duty cops to work the club, and a lot of security. We want to make it as safe as possible. But the streets in the city, like, from pandemic on, it's not good. It's sketchy. And I'm glad they recognized it and did something.
Well,
because so many places just aren't course correcting.
Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, not just the places where, murders have been happening way out of control in Chicago among the African American community for far too long, and not really reported in the way that they should be. It's amazing how Black lives don't seem to matter when they're taken by Black lives.
Right.
There you have it. Bill Maher on the Joe Rogan podcast. And, Maher, his quote reminds me of one of my all-time favorite moments in journalisming. When the media went crazy about Alec Baldwin, who is white, killing a woman, and leftists, they suddenly cared about the Chicago violence being ignored. Okay, so MSNBC, a media outlet that ignores Chicago violence, asked the Chicago mayor at the time, Lori Lightfoot, what she thought about the Alec Baldwin story. And it went something like this. So MSNBC, they said, how does it strike you when you see such massive publicity given to this story in the media, so much publicity to Alec Baldwin, when every day in the media that has signed my paycheck for 50 years, we ignore all of the gun violence in Chicago. And then Mayor Lori Lightfoot, of course, in Lori Lightfoot fashion, she cusses and she goes, "Are you fudging serious?" And she had the potty mouth on her, that Mayor Lori Lightfoot did. And Rogan mentioned how progressives defunded the police in Austin. And when crime shot up, they needed to refund the police. And Maher said it's part of a bigger problem. He says, quote, liberalism was never shoplifting as progressive. And we weren't interested in legalizing shoplifting. Like, true liberalism was not interested in legalizing shoplifting. But after George Floyd murders, riots, there was this movement to disband a lot of the police. And what happened was, of course, crime went up in certain areas. And a lot of the officers who were fired or were hired as private security by rich people, and their neighborhood stayed safe. And that wasn't a victory for liberalism. So that's what Bill Maher said. I disagree with him on one point. Forcing policies on the middle class and in urban areas that do nothing but benefit the upper class liberals is liberalism. Okay, so he's saying that that's not a victory for liberalism when you have all of these cops being fired and then they're forced to get hired on as private security for the rich people. We're talking about the rich upper class liberals. Okay, those are the people who got these private security people. Okay, so progressives are just bolder about it. It is liberalism. So Bill Maher, Rogan, they talked about how woke progressives and the KKK actually sound exactly the same. We're going to get to this video that I love, and it talks about how woke liberals and racists sound exactly the same. And it was a bit that was done by Ryan Long a few years ago. I've got to play it here for us. But up next, I'm very excited. Scott Robbins will be joining me for Scott's Takes. This is the Morning Buzz. You can text in at 309-451-9299. Scott Robbins, Scott Sticks. This is the Morning Buzz. Good morning. Oh, man, I feel like we haven't chatted in forever.
It's been a long time. I've been following you on social media, which I do. And, man, did you have some big news? How about that?
Yeah.
Our little cat here is about to be betrothed. Do you still say that word? Betrothed? I don't know.
Betrothed?
Thank you very much. You're engaged. You're engaged to be married. Yeah, she's engaged to be married. Cat is off the market, man. Off the market.
Yeah.
And you and I had conversation before, and you said, "Man, I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but it might." You know, you had an inkling it might, right? I mean, that was the deal. Of course, it might is a big word, right? I mean, who knows, right? Well, if anything's going to happen or not. But then, have you told this story already on the air today?
No, nope.
Okay, then Kat and her fiance now board a hot air balloon, go up in the hot air balloon, and that's when he proposes to her.
Yes. Yeah.
Holy cow.
It was incredible. Yeah. So the Lincoln Balloon Fest, the hot air balloons, crazy cool. We went last year. It was so much fun. And I mean, big shout out to all of the Goodmans. I think they put it on every year. And it's this huge thing with 36 balloons go up in the air. And we were helping crew one of the balloons, which was a really cool experience where, you work to try to get that balloon up in the air. And it's not easy, folks.
Right.
So we were working with a few of our friends to get it up in the air. And then we went out. I wasn't going to get in. I was afraid. I'm not much of a heights person. I'm pretty tall. I'm pretty tall. And they say taller people aren't really big into high places because I'm already tall. Right? I'm good with the whole heights thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it was 1,500 feet in the air. I had no idea. So I was very surprised.
And that's what's proposed to you. Holy cow, man.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I'm assuming you guys have been talking about this for a while.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're ready to jump to the next level here. A long engagement, you said, probably no marriage until next year at this time or around this time, correct?
Yep. About a year.
Yeah.
About a year. So it's incredible, and I'm excited.
I love the guy you're going to marry. He's a wonderful guy. I approve, and that was big for you. I know my approval, of course, had to happen.
I know. I seek your endorsement on everything.
Right. Well, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. Nice catch. Nice catch for both of you. So I think you make a wonderful couple, and I'm very happy for you. And anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing about it. I'm assuming I'll get to go.
Oh yeah.
Or at least I'll be invited. Yeah. Okay. Well,
you'll be live broadcasting from the event. And now she walks down the aisle. No. I'm just kidding. No, we're going to have a good time.
I got one quick story here about this and we'll move on. But my on-air partner and friend for 30 years at least has been Jamie Markley. So Jamie Markley, when I first met Jamie, he was dating 17 women at the same time. That was Jamie at that time, right? He meets his wife, and that all ends just boom. He's in love, and they, all these things. And so we had a bit of a falling out because he asked me to take a job I didn't end up taking, and he was angry about it. So all these people are calling me up the following Monday after he got married and said, "Hey man, how was Markley's wedding? It must have been cool." Or beforehand, they were like, "I'll see you at Markley's wedding," and I'm like, "Well, I'm not invited. I didn't get invited." Isn't that funny? He took me off the list because he was mad at me, and so I did not go to his wedding. But we've talked about that in years past. I'm like, well, at the time I said, "Well, I'll just catch you on the next one wedding," and then there was not another wedding. So at any rate, Kat, congratulations to you and Brian. It's awesome. You guys, you make a wonderful couple, and I look forward to a lifetime of happiness and sleeping on your couch in case I'm homeless at some point. Okay, all right. CNBC said they listed their top 10 states that are terrible: Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, Indiana, Missouri, Alabama, South Carolina, Oklahoma. All these states on the list. Texas, also on the list. They're all red states. This is the most ridiculous survey I think I've ever seen. Why they even published it, I don't know. And part of it was inclusion. And another part of it was available renewable energy. Okay, just stop right there. I don't even know what does inclusion even mean. What do they mean? What is that? I don't have any idea. But boy, I'll tell you what, this is a good thing because if they to places like Texas and Florida, a lot of people move there, but they don't want them to bring their politics. So perhaps this is good. They'll look at it now and go, well, we don't want to live there. We're going to continue to live in Illinois and California after all. Dr. Jill has COVID. See that?
Oh boy. Sometimes I'm so skeptical of that kind of stuff, and it's like we know that they want to hype up I don't doubt that she has COVID, but at the same time, it's like, why announce that to everybody? I'm sure she's fine, the sniffles, right? But she's got to announce
That's
it.
what they're saying.
Announce it to create some sort of hysteria. I know.
Well, I mean, she's had 73 vaccines. I mean, I don't understand any of this. So far, by the way, Joe has tested negative for COVID.
Oh, let's hope he doesn't get it because he's supposed to be going to Alaska for a vacation on 9/11.
He just came from vacation. This guy, Fauci, by the way, on masks said he hopes people abide by the recommendations about masking because it could soon be back. Because after all, we've had another outbreak of it, right? Unfreaking believable. This guy is even on TV talking about this. Meet the press. There was a Minnesota rep called Dean Phillips. He said, "I adore Joe Biden, but it's time for him to pass the torch." You start to hear the drum beat, don't you? It's a little louder within the Democrat Party, particularly on the far left faction of the Democrat Party. They don't like Joe. They don't want Joe. No. They want somebody else. If they stop their feet enough, we could see a primary. We could see him primary by somebody other than RFK Jr. We'll see. Air Canada boots 2 people from their plane. Those 2 people refused to sit on a vomit-cup seat for 5 hours. It was a flight that they had to take from Vegas to Montreal, and they get on the plane. They're like, "What is this smell? What is that? What is this?" Somebody had vomited on the plane before, and the flight crew said, "Well, you got to sit in those seats because that's what we got. We only got those seats." And they started to raise a little hell, and they got kicked off the plane. Unbelievable. Also, I just want to say this on a personal note. I was sad to hear of the passing of former Mayor Jesse Smart. Oh, yeah. I knew Jesse. I worked with Jesse. Did a lot of things with Jesse over the years. He was a conservative, by the way. Rubbed some people the wrong way. It's just his style. But I always get along with him wonderful, and he was great. He was a great guy. He was a great foil. Could have fun with you, and he could mock himself. And anyway, it was sad news when I heard it. Not completely unexpected, but I heard it anyway. Yeah, there were conservative mayors at one point in time.
Yeah,
I know that's hard to believe for you kids. Yeah, for you kids. They're not there now. But anyway, it was. He was a good dude, and he certainly will be missed. All right, Kat, have a good day. Talk to you later.
You too, Scott Robbins. Have a great day.
And then let me see your ring. Hold your ring up. Let me see it. Wow.
Whoa.
Wow,
blinding.
look at that. Holy smokes. Man, that ring on her finger. Okay, see you later.
See you later, Scott Robbins. Scott Robbins will be back tonight on Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Cities 92.9 at 8 o'clock. You won't want to miss it. They will have you laughing so hard your stomach hurts. We are going to be talking a little bit about Anthony Fauci, as Scott said, was on TV saying that you need to mask up again. Despite all of the studies saying that no, mask mandates didn't work. I'm sorry, Tony. I know where he's getting his information from. You guys remember that Canadian woodshop teacher, the trans woodshop teacher? She had these giant, or he, come on, Kat, get it together. Him, it's a dude, or she's a dude. I can't, I'm sorry. It's so hard to keep up. This guy, he's got massive prosthetic breasts, okay? And I mean, probably about the size of a basketball. A little bit bigger than a basketball, these breasts that he had. And he was at this Canadian school and he's a woodshop teacher. So naturally, people last year, when he came to school with these massive prosthetic breasts, they were like, is that against the dress code? Are they gonna get chopped off in the wood chipper or like whatever? I don't know. I never took wood shop when I was a kid, but is that against school dress code? Well, the school, of course, defended it's Canada, folks. It's a silly place. They defended this Canadian woodshop teacher and his massive prosthetic breasts, that he would, I would imagine, have to like bump children. I mean, these things are ginormous. And he shows up this school year presenting as a male. So no prosthetic breasts, no blonde wig like he was wearing the year before. So he shows up, new school, new year, and he's presenting as a male. I think it's kind of funny. So we're going to talk about a year coming up in just a bit. Plus, Oregon selling these plush toys. And it's concerning because these plush toys are genital shaped. I know. You're like, Kat, oh gosh, it's so early in the morning. I got to tell you about it. This Oregon children's clothing store. So you're a parent, you're going to go in, you're going to buy the baby stroller, you're going to buy the baby clothes. And all of a sudden on this shelf, you've got the genital plushies, is what they're called. The store owner, it shouldn't shock you that she's an OnlyFans star. OnlyFans, it's like some sort of prostitution site that Facebook does, where you can get money for posting very close to nude photos, I think. So it's like pornography, I guess. So she's on OnlyFans. It shouldn't shock you that, but she's angry that there's parents and that there's customers who are criticizing her for selling these genital shaped plushies for kids. Now, I mean, you've got the penis plushies, you've got the breast plushies, the list goes on. And in an Instagram post on the Freckled Bee Instagram, that's what the store is called. It's called the Freckled Bee. She posts this picture of a pink, purple, and orange clitoris shaped plushie with the caption that reads, "The funniest thing about this place is people find the fact that I sell stuffies that are human anatomy as negative." So she's all upset. She's like, so what if a kid grabs a stuffed testicle and reads on the information card what a testicle does? The horror. So she's being very sarcastic here. And look, folks, this is just so gross. I mean, come on. Is this where we're at? But it shouldn't shock you that she's anti-American. She's got several Instagram posts where she posts anti-American things, anti-Christian things, pro-communist, pro-abortion, pro-transgender slogans. Shouldn't shock you also that she is known to post erotic videos of herself with food. Yes, so I'm just gonna let your imagination wander. This woman is bad for the community and the store should be shut down. I'm sorry. It's gross. I mean, what's wrong with you? I'll be back on the other side talking about Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci actually stuttering on CNN when they say, hey, mask mandates did nothing. Hey, folks, if you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your normie friends. We're going to be back talking a little bit about that woodshop teacher. His name is Kayla. Well, he goes by Kayla. He's got a female name, Kayla. So there's controversy now. I'm going to share the picture with you. Then you will be able to, once you see the picture, then you're like, oh, that guy. So let's see if I can't find it. Here we go. So I don't know how he was able to how he was able to do this without getting in trouble. So here is him. You see this here, definitely bigger than basketballs, these large prosthetic breasts. Um, the school board at the time when he was wearing this last year, this is what caused the stir. He was supposed to be, or he was the subject of public attention because they were asking, hey, is this against school dress code? Can you have massive prosthetic breasts like that in the faces of 5-year-olds? You're teaching my child. I don't necessarily know if this is a Z cup. Z cup. Oh my gosh. They actually make that? I'm so confused. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash the like button. So now the guy is appearing this school year as a man. So he's gotten rid of the prosthetic breasts, he got rid of the blonde wig, and now he's presenting as a man. Prior to the teacher's first day at the new job, the school principal, Tom Fisher, issued a memo, and he warned parents about the potential media storm on the first day of class, as Kayla's gender expression was recently the subject of public attention. So this isn't like the first time. Kayla was caught dressing as a man. He was previously seen presenting himself as a male outside of work hours earlier this year. The recent spotting of Kayla and these previous sightings alike have led many to question if his claimed condition is some sort of hoax or if he's intentionally acting as some sort of troll. So, is he actually transgender? Is like the big question now. There was a massive police presence expected for the Ontario school this upcoming first day of class because he changed genders. So he's no longer this woman wearing prosthetic breasts. Um, yeah. So Kayla's behavior and choice of wardrobe was defeated last year by the school board as part of the right to protection against discrimination for gender expression. So there were a lot of concerns. People were like, wait, is this against the school dress policy? The school board ultimately voted or like ruled in favor of Kayla and his behavior. They said it's important for employers to make allowances to ensure that these employees are able to express themselves in accordance to their lived gender. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, but a teacher with giant fake breasts that's distracting, I would imagine that you are going to really cause a disruption in learning, especially when you look like a man and you've got these fake breasts on. So yeah, we're going to talk about him because he's back in the news. On the shop tank yesterday. Don't know who Mark Dice is, but I'll have to look him up and find that video. But we're going to be back talking about that a bit. Then also Anthony Fauci. CNN blindsided him live on air, which was really funny because he was like stammering and stuttering and he didn't really know what to say because he talks about the mask mandates and how they are how there's evidence that they helped. And I'm sorry, Tony, but every study says no. There is a study out there that leftists like to point to. It's in some sort of other country. I'll find it. But the problem with this study is that it's bunk. I'm looking.
Temperatures are a product of an anticipated strong El Nino rising from the equatorial Pacific Ocean, which could impact Illinois in yet another way. With an El Nino, you can in fact get significant storms. Despite this, the forecast calls for reduced overall precipitation heading into winter. I'm Kevin Bessler. News on the air on the web.
I'll find it. Live in studio. That's Kat Peterson, the morning buzz. I'm back from vacation and I am feeling so refreshed and I am ready to just give you the news of the day. There's so much. One thing I did want to talk about the ratings from the primary debate. We've now know that they were cut in half from the previous year. Not only that, then the mugshot came out shortly after those primaries. So that is all front of mind. The mugshot is front of mind for people that's dominating everybody's cranial airspace. And comment on the live stream. I'm live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, or you can text in at 309-451-9299. Can you remember anything you liked about the primary debates? I'm sorry, but those primary debates were stupid because the hacks, I mean, they all created questions that were left leaning. Like, this is a Republican primary debate, and we're asking the candidates about climate change and abortion. I don't care about climate change and I don't care about abortion. Okay. Like, I'm a Republican. Climate change is a hoax and abortion is killing babies. So we're done here. But why were those questions anyway? I don't really remember anything that happened during the primary debate. I do remember my respect for Ron DeSantis is now at zero because he looked around the debate stage after receiving the question from the moderator that said, "Hey, would you support Donald Trump if he's convicted and he's the nominee?" And he kind of looks around stage and kind of like limp wrists his hand up there. Think about the weight of that. Okay, you've got a Republican up there who wouldn't be in that position today had it not been for Donald Trump getting him elected to the governorship of Florida. Had it not been for Donald Trump, he wouldn't have even been up there, first of all. Second of all, the weight of that is huge because here you have a Republican saying that he wasn't going to support the nominee. So that means by default, you are supporting the Democrat, which right now, Joe Biden. What's wrong with you? So I lost all respect for Ron there. But people are looking at this mugshot. People care about the mugshot. They don't care about the primary debates. People who live on islands in some places with no connection to the outside world. They are seeing this mugshot. People are putting it into glass bottles, throwing them into oceans. You know, they're putting the mugshot, stuffing it in there, and they're throwing it into oceans. And these people on tribal islands are looking at this mugshot. I don't know if that's true, but some people are saying that that's happening. Nearly 300 million views of the mugshot on Donald Trump's Twitter. Wow. Now that could be some of the reason is he's back on Twitter. That could be from that, but that's 20 times more views than the primary debate got. 20 times, and that's the mugshot. Tucker Carlson's interview with Donald Trump also got near 300 million views. So there you have it. We are going to be talking about Anthony Fauci, how he's stammering on CNN because CNN actually presents him with some evidence that mask mandates did nothing. They did nothing. They always cite these bunk studies, these studies where people say they got COVID and they were self-reporting. Those studies are bunk. The actual studies, the true science says that the masks did not work. They weren't effective in stopping the spread of COVID-19. But Anthony Fauci is still out there trying to say that mask mandates did something. They didn't. So CNN actually blindsided Fauci on air with a study saying that masks don't work, which is awesome. So we're going to get to that. But first, like I said, I wanted to get to this guy. He's a Canadian woodshop teacher. And I'm sure if you were to look at this picture on YouTube, I've got it pulled up here, you would recognize this guy. He was huge, like went viral because he's got these giant prosthetic breasts. Yes, you heard me correctly this morning at 8:09 a.m. on the Morning Buzz. These giant prosthetic breasts coming off of this guy's chest. I would say bigger than basketballs, two of them. Now, this was big about a year ago because he was at the school and his name's Kayla. Well, he goes by Kayla is his name. And he arrived at this new school, this new school year without any breasts at all. And he didn't have the blonde wig. And last year, the breasts and the blonde wig caused a big stir in this school. Kayla appears to be a man now, and he's got a big old scruffy beard. And he started his first day at his new job this year. And the principal actually he warned everybody before the media got a hold of, his recent gender expression change. The principal issued a memo and he was warning parents. He was like, hey, there's going to be a potential media storm on the first day of class because Kayla, his gender expression, was recently the subject of public attention. So it wasn't the first time we've caught Kayla before dressing like a man. Just during school last year, not this year, during school last year, he was always wearing these prosthetic breasts, this blonde wig. Now, these people are starting to question. I'm starting to question, is Kayla and his gender expression, is this all some sort of hoax? Like, is he trolling? Is he trying to pretend to be transgender to try to troll the transgender ideology, the leftists? What's going on here? Because this guy is back and forth on this whole gender thing. Sometimes he wears the breasts, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he wears the wig, sometimes he doesn't. So there was actually a massive police presence expected for this new Ontario school where he was starting the first day of class this year. But the police didn't say what kind of precautions they were taking. They were just there. So last year, the prior year, not this year, where he's a man now, apparently, the previous year, the school board sided with him. They were trying, a lot of people, parents, people were trying to say, hey, this isn't right. He can't have these massive prosthetic breasts. This is against the dress code. And the school board sided with the guy, and they were like, well, it's important for employers to make allowances to ensure that these employees are able to express themselves in accordance to their lived gender. So the school board sided with him. He was allowed to wear these massive Z cup. I didn't even know that was a thing. Z cup breasts. And they said that it wasn't it wasn't distracting. It wasn't against the dress code. So yeah, that's interesting. I think the guy's trolling. I really don't think that this is an actual transgender person. I think that he's trying to make a statement or a point. I think that he's actually a man, and he decided to try to wear these giant Z cup. It's got to be a joke, right? Like, there's no way somebody would actually want to wear those. Wow. But I do have to shift gears here. Let's talk about Tony. I want to get to Tony Fauci here. So Tony was on CNN, and they were talking a little bit about the mask mandates. And in this random act of journalism, you've got CNN kind of blindsiding Fauci live on air. And they said that, hey, we've got this new study that has come out, and it says that masks didn't work. They don't work. After getting called out, Fauci, he, of course, stammers, stutters. He gives this long-winded answer, and he says, well, there's other studies. There's other studies. I think it's important to play this for you with the exchange on CNN. And then shortly after that, you're going to hear what actually Fauci said about masks back in, oh gosh, what was it? 2020, I think it was. So he himself in the past has said that the masks don't work and that they never worked. But first, let's take a listen to Fauci in present day about the mask mandates on CNN and how CNN was citing this study that says that the masks don't work. Here we go.
Totally understood. There is a perception out there by many, how many I don't know, that they don't work, and that the data concludes that they didn't work in the first go round. Respond to that on masks.
Yeah, well, that's not so. I mean, when you're talking about at the population level, that the data are less strong than knowing that if you look on a situation as an individual protecting themselves or protecting them from spreading it, there's no doubt that masks work. Different studies give different percentages of advantage of wearing it, but there's no doubt that the weight of the studies, and there have been many studies, indicate the benefit of wearing masks.
I'm going to refer to one of them. You've heard about it before. I heard about it from a number of radio callers. Brett Stevens in the Times talked about Cochrane. Put that on the screen. The most rigorous and comprehensive analysis of scientific studies conducted on the efficacy of masks for reducing the spread of respiratory illness, including COVID-19, was published last month. Its conclusions, said Tom Jefferson, the Oxford epidemiologist who is the lead author, were unambiguous. There is just no evidence that masks, make any difference. He told the journalist Mayan Demasi, full stop. But wait, hold on. What about the N95 masks as opposed to the lower quality surgical or cloth masks? Makes no difference. None of it, he said. Well, what about the studies that initially persuaded policymakers to impose mask mandates? They were convinced by non-randomized studies, flawed observational studies. How do we get beyond that finding of that particular review?
Yeah, but there are other studies, Michael, that show at an individual level for individual. When you're talking about the effect on the epidemic or the pandemic as a whole, the data are less strong. But when you talk about as an individual basis of someone protecting themselves or protecting themselves from spreading it to others, there's no doubt that there are many studies that show that there is an advantage. When you took at the broad population level, like the Cochrane study, the data are less firm with regard to the effect on the overall pandemic. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about an individual's effect on their own safety. That's a bit different than the broad population level.
Right.
Okay, before we play Fauci back in 2020 talking about the masks and how he said that they were useless back in 2020, now he's got a different story here. I want to talk about the studies he's talking about. Tony is talking about the studies where they take a population. It was some country somewhere where they took the population. They always cite this study, the leftists do. And the problem with that study is that they're bunk because they don't actually test people for COVID-19. They self-report and they say that, yes, I contracted COVID-19 and I didn't wear a mask. Like, those are totally bunk studies. They're garbage. And he's trying to say that those studies have teeth and that those are what we need to be looking at and not the Cochrane study, which is that's like you're deliberately misleading people because those are all self-reported studies. You're self-reporting that you have COVID. There's no test that was taken. You just think you have COVID. And they poll people and they say, hey, did you wear a mask? No. Do you have COVID? Yes. Like, it's all self-reporting, those studies that he's talking about. So they're actual garbage. Here's Tony back in 2020 talking about the mask.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
So here's a scenario. Go ahead and put yourself in the room with a bunch of people who have COVID-19. You're fiddling with the mask. You take the mask off, okay? And you're in this room. They're 6 feet away. They've got COVID. The particles in the air are now in your mask. You put that mask back on. That is essentially a weapon now. So the mask does more harm than good. In that sense, if you were to fiddle with the mask and take the mask off, then the COVID particles come into the mask. You put the mask back on, you're suffocating yourself with COVID particles. Okay. And I love what Tony Fauci says here because he's sitting there and he's like, yeah, on an individual level, for individuals, it might have been protective. Well, then logically speaking, would that mean individuals can choose to wear a mask or not? Okay. So if I'm not killing grandma, if I don't wear a mask, because that's essentially what you said, it's for my protection, not everybody else's protection, then we can't have government why would we have government mandates, whether national, state level? Why would we have governments mandated on everyone if in fact what you are saying is true, which it's not, at an individual level for individuals that mask is protective, then there is no reason for government mandates or mask mandates or state level mandates or even college level mandates. Universities are mandating people wear masks. So I just don't believe, and Tony in that interview, he also said that nobody's talking about mask mandates. That's not true. We see mask mandates starting to roll themselves out. And, I think back to when kindergartners were forced to eat lunch outside. I will never forget this. This was back in 2021 in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. The kindergartners were forced to eat lunch outside in 40-degree weather to slow the spread of the virus at an elementary school. They took all the kids, they sat them down on buckets, and had them eat their lunch away, socially distanced from their classmates. I'm sorry, I don't believe you when you say that we aren't going to be implementing mask mandates and lockdowns again, because you already did it. All right, I do have to take a break. We're going to come back talking a little bit about let's talk about this Bill. Well, we talked about Bill Maher. I want to talk about the 13 American service members who were killed in a terrorist attack in Kabul. This was August 26, 2021. Now, ABC News, to their credit, they let these 3 Gold Star moms share their stories. And they're not happy with Joe Biden. They're not happy with the Biden administration. In fact, one woman goes as far as to say, burn in hell. These people should burn in hell for what they did when it comes to the withdrawal from Afghanistan. That's next. Hey, if you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Smash the like button. Share this out with your normie friends. We are going to be talking about Joe Biden and how he made everything about his son Beau dying and not about these sons and daughters who were killed in this terror attack, and how these women, these mothers, are totally disgusted in Joe Biden. So there was actually a point where one of these Gold Star moms, or one of these daughters of somebody who died over in Afghanistan, shouts out at Joe Biden, burn in hell. Her son was killed in a terror attack. We also see this. She was misnamed, I guess is the word. Joe Biden couldn't remember her name, and during this, speech about the Afghanistan withdrawal, about the people who died there, the 13 service members, he gave this heartless response, and then he also flubbed up her name. So, like, he couldn't even remember the woman's name. He called her Sanchez instead of Lopez. I don't know how you messed that up, but he couldn't even remember this grieving woman's name. So we're going to talk a little bit about that here coming up in just a bit. Smash that like button if you're watching. Ooh. TK, thanks so much for commenting on the live stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble. You can be a part of the show. This is the Morning Buzz. Cam Peterson. Have you seen these new individual accounts of soldiers being forced to clean the bathrooms of the Kabul airport for the Taliban prior to leaving Afghanistan? Wow. I haven't seen that many stories about this. I have seen some whispers on Twitter about these soldiers having to be forced to clean these bathrooms of the Kabul airport for the Taliban prior to leaving Afghanistan. That's disturbing and it's degrading. And I mean, I'm not shocked. It's the Taliban. I wouldn't be shocked if that's what they made our guys do. Um, it wouldn't shock me if that's what happened, and it shouldn't shock you either that we've got J6ers who are locked right now in locked up in this country, and that we treat American citizens this way, and we allow American citizens, American soldiers, to be treated that way from this Kabul airport. It shouldn't shock us if they're cleaning the bathrooms of that Kabul air, being forced to clean those bathrooms for the Taliban. We shouldn't be shocked by that because of what we allow here in this country domestically. So J6ers, January 6ers, there's disturbing pictures. Look it up. J6er imprisoned, and he's sitting in this room, no clothes. He's got like maybe some shorts on, and he's got no bathroom, no bed, no nothing. And he's forced to lie down on this, like, what looks like a rug, a mat, and he's got a bucket. And we're treating J6ers like that here in this country. So it wouldn't shock me that our American soldiers were treated that way in Kabul and we allowed it and we didn't do anything about it. It would not shock me because of what we allow here in this country. We don't give a darn about American citizens, let alone American soldiers who are overseas in places like Afghanistan. And I bring this up today because ABC, to their credit, they actually let these 3 Gold Star mothers share their stories. And any criticism of Joe Biden, imagine the media reaction if he was a Republican, is supposed to be baked into that criticism of Joe Biden. Okay, so anymore, I mean, it's almost hackery to bring it up, but I do wonder if 2 years after a terror attack cost us the lives of 13 service members, those Gold Star families were still disgusted at a Republican president, how different the media outrage would be. So imagine Joe Biden's a Republican president. We've got these Gold Star families who are coming out every day talking about how disgusted they are at the response at the withdrawal. I have to imagine, the media outrage over this would be different. I mean, to their credit, like I said, ABC did allow these 3 Gold Star mothers to share their stories. So August 26, 2021, 13 American service members were killed in a terrorist attack in Kabul. Critics point to it as the most tragic example of Joe Biden's incompetent and disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. They say it's the worst thing that he's done in his presidency. And I would say, yes, that is the worst thing that he has done in his presidency. He's done a lot of bad, but this is the worst and definitely the most tragic. By critics, of course, his critics saying that this is the most tragic example of Joe Biden's incompetence. Those critics are everyone who's not employed by the White House or employed by corporate media, which is more or less the same thing. Those people, so you, me, and average people, they say that this is the worst thing that Joe Biden has ever done. So ABC, they allow these 3 Gold Star mothers to tell their stories. Christy Shamblin, she's the mother-in-law to Sergeant Nicole Lee. Kelly Barnett, the mother of Staff Sergeant Darren Hoover, and Coral Bursino. She's the mother of Corporal Humberto Sanchez. It's the first time we've heard from these 3 women. So, as usual, I mean, the usual hits. It's all the usual hits. Biden made everything about his son, Beau, dying, and not about the sons and daughters that were killed in the terror attack. And they were all disgusted by Joe Biden callously checking his watch during the dignified transfer, the coffins draped over with the American flag. And during that funeral or the services, he kept checking his watch. So we know that. We know that he talked about Joe Biden's son, or about his son Bo dying, and he refused to acknowledge the sons and daughters who were actually killed in this terror attack. This is why Miss Barnett, Kelly Barnett, the daughter of Miss Kelly Barnett, screamed "Burned in hell." So Kelly Barnett, like I said, she's one of these Gold Star moms of Sergeant Darren Hoover. And the daughter of her, she screamed out "Burn in hell" to Joe Biden. Okay, so these people are very upset, and for good reason. Joe Biden even confused one of the men killed in the terror attack for instead of Sanchez, Humberto Sanchez. He called him Humberto Lopez instead of Sanchez, so he couldn't even bother to remember this person's name. This her son was killed in this terror attack, and he couldn't even bother to remember her name. Oh, so he called this woman by the wrong name. Biden, he's heartless. Okay, he's a heartless person. And I'm glad that we've got these women coming out and talking about this. The family of Lance Corporal Riley McCullum made the trip in 2021, but did not want to meet meet the man they blamed for their son being killed. So Lance Corporal Riley McCullum's family didn't even want to meet Joe Biden. And they blamed him for their son dying. The widow of Riley McCullum, who was pregnant at the time, agreed to meet with the president, and she said that she regrets doing so. She said that Biden was more interested in talking about his son than her husband, and he's just a heartless person. And I had to bring that up today. I've got them on ABC. Let's take a listen to a little bit of this interview that was done on ABC with these three women who sat down. Here we go. If it will play. Here we go. I'm going to try this one more time. These three women. Here we go.
Service of others, in the service of America. Like their fellow brothers and sisters in arms who died defending our vision and our values in the struggle against terrorism. Of the fall on this day, they're part of a great and noble company of American heroes.
That was President Biden 2 years ago, speaking after a suicide bomber killed 13 U.S. service members outside of the Kabul airport during the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Martha Raddatz sat down with three of the fallen Marines' family members.
It was the only way out for Afghan civilians. Abbey Gate, Kabul airport, August 2021. Tens of thousands of Afghans swarming the gate, desperate to escape Taliban rule. 6,000 U.S. troops dispatched to aid in the evacuations. 23-year-old Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole G. was among them.
She shared with me that she had never seen people so desperate. And I think once she saw that, she was just going to give 100% to help them be rescued.
Nicole posting this image with an Afghan child less than a week before her death, with the caption, "I love my job."
And that's exactly, I feel like, how everybody there felt. They loved what they were doing and they were so proud.
31-year-old Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover certainly loved his. He was on his third deployment to Afghanistan.
I have heard from many of his friends, his men, that had said that when it was time for them to take a break, he didn't want to. He wanted to stay out there and continue to bring people in.
And 22-year-old Humberto Sanchez, known as Bert, who had joined the Marine Corps at 17 with permission from his mother, Coral.
One day he just showed up and said, "I want you to go and sign up because I enlisted in the Marines." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I want to be the best of the best and I want to make you proud."
These Marines, just 3 of the 13 U.S. service members and more than 170 Afghans killed outside Abbey Gate on August 26th when a suicide bomber exploded in the crowd. Christy Shamblin was on vacation with Nicole's husband, Her son Jared also.
So there you have it. I won't play the whole thing. It's longer, and they get into a little bit of how they feel
Back
about
to
the
my house.
response, and they blast Joe Biden in it. And yeah, like I said, it's Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a heartless individual. That's all I can really say about this. And to bring up your son when these people, these sons, these daughters, they were the ones killed in the terror attack. And I ask you, hey, had this been a Republican president, had these Gold Star families said this about a Republican president, I wonder what the media outrage would look like. I wonder what it would look like, because I know it would be different. We do have to take a break, but we're going to come back. I do want to talk a little bit about Bill Maher. He unloads on these progressives, Bill Maher, and he goes there. He says, Black lives don't seem to matter when they're taken by Black lives. And he's, of course, talking about the Chicago crime. That's next. Hey, if you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. We're going to be back talking about Bill Maher. I actually have a really funny video that I want to share with you. Ryan Long, he sent it, he made it a few years ago. And what it basically is about is how woke progressives are the same. They sound exactly the same as those in the KKK. I'm sorry, but racists, woke people, they are not much different than that of the KKK members. So we're going to talk about that video. I think it's pretty funny. But Bill Maher, he was on with Joe Rogan, and they talked about the Chicago crime. And Bill Maher said, quote, murders have been happening in Chicago among the African American community for far too long, and it's not really reported in the way that it should be. It's amazing how Black lives don't seem to matter when when they're taken by Black lives. Then Joe Rogan talks about the defund the police movement and how that has destroyed communities, and these progressive policies have increased crime. And then Bill Maher talks about how it wasn't a victory for liberalism when they defunded the police. Then all of a sudden they were fired, let go, or they just left for more money to be hired on as private security for rich people. And Bill Maher says that wasn't a win for liberalism. I disagree with Bill Maher there, because it is liberalism. What he's explaining here, liberalism has always been about making shoplifting legalized. It just increased more so after George Floyd. It's always been about protecting the upper middle class, or the upper class liberals. It's always been about protecting them. That's what liberalism is. And Bill Maher is wrong. And then he sits there and he says that that's not actual liberalism. It is. It's all about benefiting the upper class liberals. Look at Kamala, look at Joe. They have always had private security. Look at Bill Maher himself. He is the upper class liberal who probably has private security. Joe Rogan even talks about how he has private security and he's the upper class liberal. That is liberalism. Progressives have just gotten bolder about it over time since George Floyd and the riots. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, what else have we got? Primary ratings. I've got those in. They were cut in half from the previous year. And then you look at the Trump mugshot and it's got 300 million views on it. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button and share this out with your normie friends. We'll be back in just about a few minutes. Wowza! Some breaking news this morning. Desi Anderson announcing that she's going to run for state representative in the 91st House District, challenging Democrat incumbent Sharon Chung. So Desi, for all y'all don't know her, I love Desi. She's great. She's a business owner, a mother. She lives in Carlock with her husband and her very cute son, very adorable, Bono. And she ran for, I think it was Congress last year. I can't remember. It's all a blur. But so she is running for the 91st. Now the 91st district stretches from Bloomington to Bartonville, and the district encompasses portions of McLean, Peoria, Tazewell, and Woodford counties. So she is looking to unseat Sharon Chung, and I hope, and this is my hope for Desi in her campaign. Just off the cuff here, 91st district, Sharon, with what she did when it comes to the town of Normal, they broke a law, changed a law. She changed the law for the town of Normal. It's an incorporated town, and it said in the state law that if you had 25,000 people, you needed certain people to serve in government, like a county clerk. You needed to elect these certain, or like a clerk, different kinds of roles in the town. You have to elect the town clerk. You have to elect an assessor, a collector, all these different positions. And people were petitioning for those positions, and they were thrown off of the ballot. Very anti-democratic. A very anti-democracy to throw people off of that ballot. And then Sharon Chung, what she did, when people, decided to run for that, there was this big thing in the town of Normal where they were trying to get the board system. They were trying to get these people on the ballot because they're an incorporated town of over 25,000 people, and state law says that you need these elected positions. They changed the law as soon as she got into Springfield. And as soon as she became a state legislator, what she did, she changed the law to make it to where Normal operates like no other town in the state. And they are exempt from that state statute that says that they have to have these certain elected positions, and they have to have these people elected to those positions. So she changed it. And that, my friends, is anti-ballot access, anti-representation, and it's very authoritarian, which is completely opposite of what Sharon Chung ran on. She was going door to door asking people, hey, don't vote for Republicans because they want to take away your body autonomy or whatever, with the pro-choice or pro-abortion, whatever argument. And she was trying to say that about the Republicans. I hope that Desi takes that issue, somehow consolidates it, and tries to make it consumable for those in McLean County specifically, and other counties as well, and makes people aware of how anti-democracy Sharon Chung is. She is anti-democracy, and she is about taking people off of the ballot. Because she was lobbied essentially by the town of Normal, which is shady in and of itself, to go and change this law that makes it to where you don't get representation if you live in the town of Normal, like the representation that was designed for you to have if you live in an incorporated town over 25,000 people. She changed the law. So it's anti-democracy, and I wish Desi Anderson luck. So that was big news 15 minutes ago. So you're getting the breaking news right here. She's running in the 91st district. It's a tough district. It's definitely drawn for a Democrat, but if anybody can do it, it's Desi. So let's see. I am going to be back. Let's talk a little bit about Bill Maher. I've got a comedy bit that I want to end the show with. It's pretty funny. When wokes and racists actually agree on everything. So woke people and racist people in the KKK, they agree on everything, and they're like best friends. I'm telling you. This is a bit that Ryan Long did, and I want to share it with you next here on The Buzz. Wow, so that's kind of like big news here, folks. Desi Anderson announcing, very huge and exciting. We're getting calls, so I'm excited. Hold on. Yeah, I definitely think Desi is going to be able to take this seat from Sharon Chung. If anybody can do it, it's definitely It's definitely going to be Desi, and I really hope she runs this campaign where we highlight where she highlights Sharon Chung's anti-democrat behavior. She's running as a Democrat, but she is not for democracy. She threw people off of well, she's throwing people off of the ballot. State statute said that, hey, you get these elected positions. It was very black and white to me. Now, we had judges, Scott Casper, or not Scott Casper. There was there was a judge. I forget the name of the judge. Courting, maybe. There was a judge who literally said that this doesn't look good, and you're opening yourself up to potential lawsuits here, Town of Normal, because there might be an argument to be had here where these elected positions need to be a thing. So Sharon, she changed the law to make it to where the Town of Normal doesn't have to operate with inside that state statute, and I think it's anti-democratic, and I hope that she really hones in on that. Plus, um, I think it helps, and I'm just going to be honest here, that Desi has a baby, a very young child, and one thing that Scott Preston didn't do in his campaign with Sharon was hold her feet to the fire when it came to the abortion issue. A lot of Democrats, um, good Democrats, where they're moral beings, they are not for late term abortion. She needs to be asked if she's for abortion up to 9 months, and she needs to answer that directly, yes or no. Um, she won't answer it, I'm sure. But what Scott Preston really could have done was hold her feet to the fire and asked her, okay, where is the line for you? Is it 8 months? Is it 7 months? Really just point blank asking her, hey, are you for abortion at 9 months? The thing about Democrats is that they can't answer that, because if they answer it, they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because they lose the extremists in their party who are for uh, late term abortion, and that's a majority of them, because the Democrat Party, they are extreme individuals, all of them, essentially. Now there are a few that are not for abortion at 9 months. Um, and, most rational people and most um, people who aren't barbaric are against abortion at 9 months. So she needs to be held accountable for that. And I'd love to see that question be asked of Desi to Sharon Chung. That's a big one. Um, Share this out with your normie friends. We're going to end on a lighter note today. I think this is pretty funny. Wokes versus racists, and how they're the exact same. Hello. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Desi Anderson announcing she's going to try to run against Sharon Chung in the 91st. As of right now, I don't think any other Republican has announced in there, so she's not really primarying anybody. But I'm excited. I really hope that this campaign, the Desi Anderson campaign, really hones in on this idea that Sharon Chung is anti-democratic. Like, she has participated in a process where she changed the law that would allow more people to represent normalites, more people, normal citizens. The town of Normal, we would have been able to have more representation that we elect. And she was against that, obviously, because she put forward an amendment to a state statute that exempts Normal from being obligated to have these elected positions in place. So I hope that they hone in on that. And I also hope that the question is finally asked of Sharon Chung, where do you stand on abortion? Is it up to 9 months? She needs to answer that yes or no. Very, very directly. She needs to be asked that question of Desi because we know the media won't ask her. And you know that she won't answer it from us at Cities 92.9. So here is a little fun thing, how woke progressives in the KKK sound exactly the same. This was really funny. Ryan Long, he did this a few years ago. But Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, they talked about how woke progressives and racists, like actual KKK members, sound pretty close to when they talk about their ideas. Here we go. Let's take a listen. You can watch it on Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble.
When me and Brad first met, I didn't think we'd get along, but turns out we kind of agree on everything. Your racial identity is the most important thing. Everything should be looked at through the lens of race.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke. We both have a lot of opinions about people of color, even though we barely know any.
I say colored people, but as long as we're classifying them, we both think minorities are a united group who think the same and act the same.
And vote the same. You don't want to lose your black card. Sorry, I don't know. I just think we should
Roll back discrimination laws so we can hire based on race again. Jinx, now you owe me a Coke. Hey, tell them what you told me yesterday.
White actors should only do voices for white cartoon characters.
I've been saying that for years. Stick to your own.
Us white people, we have so much privilege.
I agree. It is a privilege to be white. Ask him about interracial dating.
All I said is that black men who date white women have internalized racism, and white men that date ethnic women are fetishizing them.
Guys against interracial dating now. Like, am I being pranked? Did Boomer put you up to this?
Ugh, you know that taco place is white owned?
White people should be making white foods like Kraft macaroni and cheese, no seasoning, not even salt. It's like he's a mind reader. I mean, I've been pushing for segregation forever, and my man does what?
You guys are going to have to watch the whole thing. We'll share it on to Cities 92.9's Facebook page. You guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you again tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, starting at 6 a.m. It's the Morning Buzz. Kat Peterson signing off. Bye-bye. I love you.